Hi, Richard. Thanks for agreeing to do the interview today. Maybe somebody will watch this and be inspired to try the carnivore way of eating. And that's always my first question is, what made you think about the carnivore way of eating?
Honestly, it was my wife. She went carnivore in December of 2019, and I followed on in January and started to do the slow transition from a keto diet to a ketovore diet to a carnivore diet. And now I'd say I'm more of a I probably get about 95% of my energy and protein intake is from animal products.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. I mean, did you have any weight to lose? I mean, you said about keto. Was there a time when you were a lot heavier, and what do you weigh now?
Yes. So I would say a few years ago, December 2018, we were down at her brother's house and I stepped on the scale. And at that point, it'd been a while since I stepped on, and I weighed on that day, I weighed 252 pounds. And I looked at her, I was like, babe, you know what? I don't care the cost. Let's lose this weight. And that's really, I mean, I'd already felt the want to be able to do it. And I've tried several times over the years, and nothing that I was doing was working. I mean, I've got medical conditions and stuff like that was preventing me from doing certain things. Like they kept on saying, well, exercise. Well, I'd exercise, but then I would have episodes where I couldn't walk for 45 minutes to an hour just because of my lower back problems and my mid back problems. So I couldn't do a lot of push-ups or weights because I ended up having shoulder surgery because I destroyed my shoulders. So I really had to find a different avenue to be able to get me to where I needed to be. And at that time, I didn't understand fully what I know now. Like, I wish I knew now what back in my 20s, I would have changed my whole life, and it would have been a lot different. So.
And what weight did you get down to from the 252?
Well, my highest weight we're suspecting was more like 270 pounds. But when you get to a certain point, you just stop weighing altogether. It might've been 275. I don't know. I was pretty big. I mean, I was up to like a size 46 in pants and stuff like that. I weighed myself last night. No, night before last. I didn't weigh myself this morning or last night, but yesterday when I weighed myself, I was at 277.4, but I've been eating a lot more dairy products. And normally when I do that, I test myself every once in a while. I mean, if I'm going to experiment on somebody, experiment on myself, because for me to be able to do an interview like this, I have to be able to understand what's going on with me. Otherwise, I'm just one of those people that's going to spout off stuff and people aren't going to believe me. So we try to practice what we preach. So I like this month or last month, I was strictly carnivore. I finally broke the 283 mark. And now I've been hovering more around 183. Now I'm down to 174, but I was up to 177 the other day, but I've increased my dairy intake. That's cheeses and creams and stuff like that. So, but then I've been thinking about it, and starting next month, I think I might just go full carnivore for like 90 days, because that to me tells me that I still have a lot of healing to do, and I'm still healing. I still have a gut, an extended belly. I don't have a six pack, which tells me there's still something going on. I had a CAC scan back in June, and part of that CAC scan that I had done said that they would look at my internal organs. Well, one of the things they found in there is that I had a fatty liver. Well, with a CAC score of 1 and a fatty liver, that tells me that I have still healing to do, or what is causing that? Why do I still have a fatty liver and a CAC score of 1? Okay. CAC score of 1 is actually really, really good.
Yes.
When you look at the grand scheme of things, especially when it's on a scale, when they cap out the scale at 400, but it actually goes above 400. I just tell everybody, once you get above 400, find yourself a good mortician,
Yes. I mean, mine was 639. So you've lost 100 pounds, around 100 pounds. You've still got healing to do. So that's something I think a lot of people realize. I mean, I'm 57, so I got to 50 before I realized that the healthy way I was eating was actually unhealthy. That's the thing. And I think we don't know the state of your liver when you were 277 pounds.
Well, so I do know my blood work, and I have a copy of all my blood work from that time period. And and we can deduce some of it from that. But once you get a gut, you have visceral fat, which tells me that all your organs are filled with fat and there's no place else to put it. So once you hit to that point, you know that you're unhealthy and there's something seriously wrong. And with that, you should be questioning what's going on. Why am I this way? And stuff like that. And then it leads to other things like, I felt bad that I was overweight. I felt my self-esteem was way down, everything. And so you start questioning and you start looking for answers. And so my wife, bless her and everything, she's the one that found a lot of this stuff. I mean, she's done hours and hours of research and study into this, and I get a lot of secondhand information from her. So most of what I know is from her. Well, she's getting into coaching. She's got her first client finally, and we want to build up on that. And she's coached other people that were unpaid before she got she started going through the current program that she's going through. So we've seen the difference. We've lived the difference. I mean, there's all kinds of, I can name a million reasons to do this diet. And it really comes down to the individual more than anything else. It comes down to who you are and what you want. It's the one thing that I like when we want to start doing some in-person conferences and stuff like that, is I want people to find their why. What is your why? What is your number one reason for wanting to do this? There's a reason people go this route. There's a reason that people are breaking the chains of bondage to unhealthy living. What is that why? Because it's that why that's the most important, because I've seen people sit there and say they have this why and fail every time, because they don't have the why. I mean, her cousin was a good example. Her cousin, and she actually has an interview on our YouTube channel where they sit down and talk to each other and they discuss this. And her cousin thought we were crazy. My family thinks I'm crazy. To this day, they still think I'm crazy.
Well, what was your why, Richard? What was your one?
My why was I had a wife that was willing to support me, and I have a family that I love. And all indications were pointing that by the time I was 45, I was going to have a heart attack or die. And I love my family way more than I love anything else. And I'm a Christian. And so with God's help and a wonderful wife that supports me, and we were supporting each other, and that's the other thing. People have to have the support structure. If your family truly loves you and believes in you and they see the difference, then they should accept you for who you are. And so, but people just don't want to hear it, because a lot of times it comes down to is I've been lied to, and they don't want to admit that they've been lied to. And we were tired of being lied to. And so my why came down to family and faith.
Yes. So what did you see clear up? Any conditions, any particular? I know you lost a ton of weight, but anything else?
Let's see. So it helped out with some of the back pain. And let me be clear. Everything that I say here does not mean it's going to clear up. It's not like I got this way overnight. It took me years to get to this. I mean, like I said, by the time I was 45, I was probably going to have a heart attack. Well, guess what? I'm 45 next month. I'm like, maybe 3 weeks from now, I turn 45, right after 9/11. My birthday is September 12th. I'm not afraid to tell people I'm going to be 45 on September 12th. And I have got a CAC score of 1. I don't know what it was before that because I never got tested. Okay. I didn't learn about the CAC score until after I was into this diet, or like I call it, way of eating, because a diet is nothing more than a 4-letter word that people apply to everything. So we have a different way of eating. We discussed before, this way of eating has been around for 2 million years. Why change it? It worked for 2 million years. We didn't have a problem with it. I mean, even go back to the 1800s and the early 1900s and the 1700s, everybody was skinny, healthy. And there's different reasons for why people died. I mean, shoot, one time the plague killed millions of people. The Spanish flu killed millions of people. And what does that do when millions of people die at once? It reduces the average life expectancy of the whole population of the world. you know? And as we fight through that, guess what? Now the life expectancy goes back. And so everybody believes that because of what we're doing today, you know, that this is the reason that life expectancy is longer. Well, maybe not. You know, let's look outside the realm here of our closed system and think, well, when the plague was around in the 1600s, what happened? Millions of people died. Well, why did they die? Because they had this new variant of a virus that was mainly rampant in cities that were killing off people because they didn't understand. Now we understand it. So,
and childhood mortality as well. I mean, if you had in the old days, they'd have like 10 kids, and they did that because they knew 5 were going to die in childbirth. So if you've got, you know, 5 of your kids have lived to 100 and 5 died at birth, the average age allegedly is 50. But of course, the ones that get past childbirth, they've all lived to 100. I mean, and most people I speak to of our age, I mean, I'm a bit older than you, you know, they can remember, oh, my grandparents lived to 80 plus, you know. And I think you're right about the life expectancy. And in fact, I think the most recent data shows that even with the way they manipulate the figures, the last year in America, the life expectancy went down for the first time. So
actually, the last couple of years it did. They've been dropping it for like the last 2 or 3 years. It's been slowly dropping.
Yeah. Brilliant. Now, you also said there about being lied to. So what was you referring to? Calories in, calories out, or the food industry? What was you referring to there?
I look at it this way, and I have to be careful what I say, because some people are going to sit there and say, well, he's a conspiracy. Okay, call me a conspiracy theorist, call me whatever you want. I don't even care anymore. But what it comes down to is people put forth things because they believed it was the right thing to do. But then what happens when the right thing doesn't get tested? So people have been pushing forth this, the standard American diet for what, close to 100 years now? I mean, it started back in the 1950s and continued on. And I could get into the whole history, but that's like a 2-hour thing. And my wife would probably do better than I would because she knows more about it. We're trying to put together some kind of health conference right now for our local church. And so I'm putting together the slideshows for that. So I have to go through and learn the history myself so I can get the appropriate quotes, get the appropriate data and stuff like that. So when it comes down to it is, we were healthy before the 1950s. Look at the photos. I mean, if you can't believe the pictures from the 40s, 50s, and 60s before the standard American diet really took hold in the 70s, then you yourself have to come to terms to what the truth is. And because of that, you start to learn, oh, well, why did the standard American diet come about? Well, because some politician wanted to get reelected and he didn't care what the science said. Well, what about, say, Ansel Keys? Everybody in this community knows who Ansel Keys is. He did it just because he was a vegan and he felt it was wrong to kill animals. Well, I'm the total opposite. I feel agriculture is completely wrong. And if people sit there and say, oh, well, you don't know anything about farms. I grew up on a farm. I lived 10 years of my life on a farm. Up until I started this diet, completely supported agriculture 100%. But as I learned more and realized the truth behind the matter, well, guess what? It's time for other people to wake up. And the only way to get that message out is to do stuff like this interview. Good example of agriculture ruining something. And if nobody believes me, I recommend everybody do their own research. There's a documentary out there on the agriculture industry of roughly the Mississippi and the Missouri areas in the Great Lake, in the lake region of the United States. Okay. And of course, everybody knows we live in Wisconsin. So when you drive around Wisconsin, you see a lot of lakes that are covered in algae, or a lot of water sources covered in algae around here. Not so much the streams, but like the outer edges of lakes and the whole ponds and stuff like that. They're just covered in algae. Well, there's a documentary out there that specifically talks about why this is. Well, come to find out, the reason it is this way is because the amount of fertilizers, I'll say fertilizer, I don't want to name off specific companies. The amount of fertilizers that the farmers or the people who do agriculture put on their fields is washing off through the watershed system. As it rains, it washes it down. Then it goes into the stream. From the stream, it goes into a pond. Well, algae, which normally wouldn't survive in something like that, or in something like a pond or a lake, not very well because there's not enough nutrients in there for them to survive. Well, what are they doing? Well, they're surviving, they're exploding. I mean, it's literally killing off all the animal life in these ponds and everything. And nobody has to take my word for it. Drive up here if you're in the United States. Go look at all these ponds. Look at all the algae. I mean, they have a documentary out there on this. I wish I could remember the name of it, but I don't. It's been a while since I watched it. It wasn't until we moved to Wisconsin that I really started paying attention to it, and then that's when more and more I've become more and more against the whole ag industry and the way they run everything. So
Brilliant. That's brilliant. Thanks for that. So that is something people will, I'm sure, go and research actually, because I'd not heard that before. So that's brilliant. Coming back to carnivore, because I don't want to make the video too long. If anyone is interested in carnivore, you've done keto, obviously. In fact, your journey, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you is your journey sounds like mine. You tend to do keto, then you go low carb, and then you go, you start low carb, then you go keto, ketovore, and then you go carnivore. Have you got any tips for people that are sort of thinking, I might try carnivore, then again, I might not? Anything you think you could say that would maybe help them in their transition to actually start this and possibly thrive from it?
well, I would say anybody that's starting on this journey, let's say you're day one, okay, and you want to start on this journey, I highly recommend go keto first. I know from a carnivore's perspective, a lot of people are like, no, just go straight carnivore. No, I think that my wife and I, the way we did it and the way we did it with our kids and the way we've tried it with so many, we've had better success getting people to carnivore without the effects than if you go straight carnivore. Because once you switch your diet and you start cutting out, I tell people, I was like, fine. Do me a favor. If you do anything, cut out seed oils, cut out grains, and cut out processed foods. You can eat as many fruits, vegetables, whatever you want, plant-based stuff and animal-based stuff, as long as you got to focus on animal protein and animal fat for your energy and your building blocks. Eat the vegetables. I don't care. Eat as much as you want. Just keep eating it, but cut out seed oils, cut out grains, and cut out processed foods. And what I mean by processed foods, like breads and stuff like that, something that's actually really, really processed, because you can go to, technically all food is processed. Like I can go buy cow from a meat market. Well, that's processed, but that's not the kind of process I'm talking about. I'm talking about the process of like cakes and other bakery items and stuff like that, or faux crab or anything like that. So, and my wife kind of covers this in her latest video about keto, scary, I think she called it scary keto or something like that. So they can get a little bit more of an understanding of it that way. And then once you do that, you're going to notice you're going to start having less and less addictions towards those products. I mean, when I first started it, I had the addiction to Cinnabon. Not gonna lie. And I would want a Cinnabon every once in a while. Boy, did I feel like crap the next day. Dude, it really hit me hard. And the more I learned, and then like when we first started this, the reason we had to alter our diet again is I ended up getting kidney stones. Found out oxalates and me don't get along. And so I was passing kidney stones almost one a week for a while.
Wow.
Once I figured out I could withstand the pain, and I was able to handle kidney stones, large ones too. People were like amazed. How did you pass that one? I mean, I had one almost the size of my pinky nail here that I passed. And they were like, how did you pass that? I'm like, because I knew what it was. I was able to focus on the pain and keep the pain, that just who I am. So, but then as you go through it, you get less and less addiction. Then you convert over to ketovore. And as you convert to ketovore, you start getting the less addiction to the vegetables and the fruits. And then as you convert over to carnivore, it's just a slow process. It's detoxing. But if you do it at a controlled rate, I think you'll have better success because you won't have that urge to go back. So, and be clear, not all the urges to want something go away. Like I had this one job and they would do Reese's peanut butter cups, favorite candy in the world. And I would get this addiction to want one. Knowing what it was, I could resist it. So just people need to understand it's not going to cure everything. It will help alleviate a lot of the pain, and it will not prevent all the addictions. And they're still going to be there. You just have to have the willpower and the knowledge on how to fight it.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Thanks so much for your time. I think what we'll do is possibly revisit you in a few months and talk about some other things, but that's great. Just for now, I just wanted to do like a short 20-minute video, and hopefully that'll inspire someone to try this weight. I agree with you that I think transitioning in is such a good way to do this, because you don't get so many negative side effects as you transition. So that's great. Richard, thank you very much for your time. Hope you enjoyed doing it.
Oh, I enjoyed it. I hopefully, in a few months I'll have more information and we can give you an update.
Brilliant. Thank you.